How did the Niners and Brock Purdy land on the number they finally landed on for him?
I think it was the path of least resistance. I think that when you look at how their season was impacted last year by a holdout and a hold in and contract issues, I mean, I kind of saw the Kittle contract, the Purdy contract, and the Warner contract were all kind of intertwined, where those three guys are, the three leaders of the team. And I think any one of those three could have just tried to grind the 49ers for everything. But I think where it landed was roughly where I think everybody thought it would be. I think the $55 million per year mark was kind of, right around that area. And so CEO Jed York called Brock Purdy a top 10 quarterback, and now he's getting paid like a top 10 quarterback. I think he's seventh on the list now as far as average per year. So after getting paid less than $1 million a year for his first three seasons in the league, I think this was a very fair contract, and it doesn't kill the 49ers on the salary cap, and it certainly gives Brock Purdy generational wealth. So for a guy that the 49ers have kind of planted their flag and said that they expect him to be the starter for as long as John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are with the 49ers, it seemed like a good number and a fair number for both sides.
Well, also, Matt, there's the unspoken thing, too, which is, he kind of saved everyone's bacon. Normally, when you trade as much capital as you do to trade up to take a quarterback who doesn't pan out, as they did for Trey Lance, and the fact that Purdy does what he does, it kind of saved the day in many different ways. You know what I mean? And so he deserves his money even for that on top of it, Matt.
No question. Yeah. I mean, it's funny, Rich. I mean, when that trade was made to go up to number 3 overall in 2021, and the selection was Trey Lance, kind of the thought was, boy, if Trey Lance doesn't work out, if he becomes, a guy who doesn't contribute to this team, then Lynch and Shanahan might be out of a job. And what happened was that, he never really, solidified his spot as a starter. In, was it 22? He got injured. And Brock Purdy stepped in and played well. And now nobody's talking about Trey Lance and the swing and a miss as far as the 49ers there. So you're absolutely right. The number 3 overall pick did not work out for the 49ers, but the number 262 that did. And he's the guy now with the $53 million a year contract.
That said, Jed York does love Shanahan and Lynch. So we wouldn't know exactly how hot a seat would have gotten. We're just assuming that's just the way things go in the NFL, is when you do that, you take the risk and you miss on a quarterback. That usually does lead to a house cleaning. All that said, what can you say, certainly since Jed York trusts these guys, what can you say to those who think Purdy doesn't deserve this contract and that the Niners should have let him play it out and should have let him maybe go in a different direction? What do you say to those about what you know that Shanahan and Lynch think of Purdy, Matt?
I mean, I think the people who are saying that, I don't know if they watch the 49ers. I don't know if they watch much professional football, because, I mean, this is a guy that put up huge numbers in 2023, his first full year as a starter. Last year, they had all the injuries and, basically playing with a lot of guys he didn't even practice with during the offseason. I just think that Brock Purdy is one of those guys that the closer you are to him, the more impressive he looks. To see how his teammates talk about him, the coaching staff, how they talk about him. Does he have the biggest arm in the world? Of course not. But where his strengths lie are in other areas, like being able to read a defense on the fly, and knowing the offense, and being accurate and decisive, his decision making, his processing, all of those things. He's a really good player, and there's no question about it. And so when you look at the quarterback market and the salary cap, how it's rising, I just don't think that the 49ers or any team really wants to do anything that kind of undermines the leadership qualities of a quarterback. So if they try to kind of pull him around and have him twisted in the wind as far as the contract, that sends a message not only to him, but the entire locker room. That's something I think the 49ers really wanted to avoid. After last season, things were the vibes were just completely off from the off season all the way through the season. Brock Purdy played well, not as well as he did in 2023, but he still produced at a decent level, seventh in the league in QBR. So no, I just don't think that inside the building and the people who are making the decisions and the people who are around the 49ers, I don't think there was ever any question that he is the guy for the future. It's hard to find starting quarterbacks that you want in the NFL. A lot of teams are trying to find them. Teams are trying to find them every year, and the 49ers found their guy in Brock Purdy.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.